I am amazed that something that looks so complex can be so simple to install. But European hinges, commonly called concealed cup hinges, are just that. They can be easily installed on site with nothing more than a hand drill. You just need to know a few simple tricks. Ow. These became known as European hinges during the last half of the last century, when they quickly became the most popular type of hinge on European cabinets. Now, it's either that or they were invented by Mr. Europe. Whatever the source of their name, these hinges offer versatility, ease of installation, and most important, the ability to micro-adjust the hinge after it's installed. This made them popular worldwide. Today, they're just called concealed cup hinges, or concealed hinges, whatever. It's this cup that makes these hinges so different from pin hinges. Instead of having two metal leaves or plates joined by knuckles and a pin, you have a plate and a cup linked by a mechanism. This mechanism nests in the cup until you open the hinge. And instead of having to cut rectangular mortises for the leaves that will hide everything but the knuckles and the pin, all you have to do is drill a shallow hole for the cup, and everything, plate, cup, mechanism, will be hidden when you close the door. The first step in installing cup hinges is to choose the right hinge. There are many different types of these hinges, and the hinge that you need depends on how the door fits the cabinet on the hinge side. Remember, you can build a cabinet with or without a face frame, and that has a lot to do with how the door fits. Without a face frame, the door opening is the same size as the cabinet case. A face frame covers the front of the case and narrows the door opening somewhat. There are 3 different ways you can fit a door to a cabinet whether or not it has a face frame. The door can be inset inside the opening, or the door can overlay the case completely. This is called a full overlay. Or it can overlay the case or the face frame partially, a partial overlay. The cup is always installed in the door. The plate is always installed inside the cabinet case or attached to the face frame. Now, here are the 3 hinges from the 3-door demonstration cabinet that I just showed you. Inset door, full overlay door, and partial overlay door. Note that each hinge is slightly different. The cups are all the same. The plates are the same for the 2 doors on which the plates are attached to the case, the inset and the full overlay doors, but the plate is different for that door on which the plate is attached to the face frame, the partial overlay door. The hinges on all 3 doors are different. You have to choose a hinge with a mechanism that holds the cup and the plate in the right position so that the door fits the cabinet the way you want it to fit. Inset, full overlay, or partial overlay. And if it's overlaid, how far does it lay over? The full overlay door lays over a case that is 3/4 of an inch or 19 millimeters thick. So I used a hinge made for a 3/4 inch / 19 millimeter overlay. The partial overlay door lays over the face frame 3/8 of an inch or 9.5 millimeters. So the hinge I used is designed for a 3/8 inch / 9.5 millimeter overlay. You can buy hinges with as little or as much overlay as you want. I have seen hinges as small as 1/4 inch overlay, that's 6 millimeters, or as large as 1 1/4 inches, 32 millimeters. And this overlay only applies to the hinge side of the door. The other 3 edges can overlay as little or as much as you want. And there is one more permutation that you should know about. What if the cabinet door is lipped? That is, what if there is a rabbet on the inside edge so that the door is partially inset and partially overlaid? Well, when that is the case, you need a concealed cup hinge for a lipped cabinet door. Presently, there is only one size available. The doors must have a 3/8 inch or 9.5 millimeter lip. That is a rabbet 3/8 inches by 3/8 inches. This is especially useful if you are restoring or repairing older style cabinets with a face frame and a lip door. Now, I know your head is spinning, but there is one more thing to consider. How far do you want your doors to open? So far, all of the doors that I have shown you open between 90 and 110 degrees. But there are concealed cup hinges that open even further. For example, some corner cabinets have what are called pie-cut doors. Two doors that open and fold into each other so that you can reach the interior. You can purchase special hinges for these that will open up to 170 degrees. Finally, you need to pay attention to door construction. Cup hinges will work with slab doors, a single sheet of plywood, melamine, or fiberboard, and they will also work with traditional paneled doors, rails and stiles that frame a panel. However, the frame members must be the right size. Specifically, they can be no narrower than 1 3/4 inches or 44 millimeters, and even that is pushing the edge of the envelope. Any narrower than this, and you have to hold your mouth just right to make sure there's wood on both sides of the hole. That's a technique I'm not fond of. Narrow frame members may also require you to drill through the groove in which the panel sits and into the panel itself. This is not a terrible thing. No one will ever see it, but you have to be sure that it will not interfere with the expansion and contraction of the panel in the grooves. And now for the hard part, making the template. Well, not so much making the template, but finding the information you need to make the template. That is the crucial measurements for locating the hinges inside the cabinet and on the door. You know, I'm old enough to remember that when you bought a package of expensive hardware, it came with a piece of paper called instructions. Nowadays, you need a computer and advanced research skills to find the information you need. Recently, I ordered 18 pairs of concealed cup hinges from a reputable company, and they arrived without a shred of paper, except for the invoice, of course. I went back to the product page on their website, looking for some mention of measurements, and finally found a link hidden in a second-tier menu for technical documents, which I had to download and print out. But that is nothing compared to what I went through for the hinges on this demonstration cabinet. The location of the cups and the location in the plates were in two different places on the manufacturer's website, and I never did find the measurements that I needed to locate the pilot holes that hold the cups and the cup holes. I had to make my own. So, do a little due diligence before you commit to buy these suckers. Make sure that the seller will give you all the information that you need to successfully install the hinges. Once you discover where the seller has hidden the measurements, lay out the template on a piece of cardstock. I use ordinary index cards most times. Bend the card to make a guide to help position the template relative to the edge of the door or the case. Cardstock is great for making templates to install 1 or 2 pairs of hinges. But if you have more than that, you'll need something more durable. So I make my templates from clear acrylic plastic that I can get from hardware stores and home centers. A quick tip for marking holes with a plastic template. Alls work great, but if you want to be dead on, use a transfer punch. Transfer punches are metalworking tools, but they can also be handy in a woodworking shop. Occasionally, you have to make 2 templates, one for the doors and one for the cabinet, as I did for the doors I'm about to install on this kitchen cabinet. Scratch a center line on both templates to help accurately position them. I don't need to tell you that accuracy here is paramount. The hinges are adjustable, but only within 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter to either side. Measure your doors and your cabinet and mark the center lines of the hinges. Now, for doors this size and weight, I need just 2 hinges per door, each set between 2 and 4 inches, that's 50 to 100 millimeters, from the top and the bottom of the door opening. My template is 5 inches wide, and I've made a mark at the halfway point, so I can use that to quickly measure and mark my center lines. As you can see, this cabinet has a face frame. Now, ordinarily, I would attach the hinge plate to the edge of that face frame, but that's not going to work in this instance because the door is lipped and partially inset. So, I have a bracket that I'm going to attach to the back of the face frame, and then I'll attach the plate to the bracket. Using my first template, I'm going to mark the position of the bracket pilot holes on the back of the web frame. Then using the second template, I'll mark the positions of the cup holes and the pilot holes in the cabinet door. One more important thing to consider as you mark each door. The inset portion of each door is slightly smaller than the door opening. In this case, it's 1/8 inch or 3 millimeters. So, when I mark the position of the cup hinge, I have to shift the template 1/16 of an inch, 1/2 of an eighth of an inch, towards the top edge or the bottom edge of each door. To do this accurately, I've made the hinge template 1/8 of an inch smaller than the cup template. This isn't an issue when you're making overlay doors, but when you're making lipped or inset doors, you have to figure it in. You have to be mindful of the way the door fits the opening. After you have marked the doors and the cabinet, go back and make the indentations a little bit deeper to better catch the tip of the bit. I'm going to drill the cup holes first. Usually these are 1 3/8 inches or 35 millimeters in diameter, although I have seen hinges with cups that are a little smaller and a little larger. Tap the hinged edge of the door on your workbench to shift the floating panel to that side before you drill. That way there will be plenty of room for the panel to expand towards the opposite edge. Use a piloted Forstner or multi-spur bit to make the cup hole. I prefer the multi-spur bit, especially when I'm on site and I have to do this with my hand drill. The multi-spur cuts faster and seems easier to control. Usually, the cup hole needs to be 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters deep. For this particular bit, that means I need to stop just before the top of the bit comes even with the wood surface. Test fit both cups in each door. First, check that the cup holes are deep enough. Then, put a straight edge against the cups to line them up and see if the screw holes are in the right places. Then drill pilot holes for the screws in both the door and the cabinet. Use a piece of tape to help gauge the depth of the holes. If you're working in a shallow cabinet, this little doodad is a lifesaver. It's a flexible shaft tool, and it allows you to reach into awkward spaces. Without it, I'd have to drill the pilot holes in the back of the face frame at a ridiculous angle. I might not even be able to drill them at all. I also have a flexible shaft screwdriver so that I can drive screws in those perverse spaces where I just drilled pilot holes, which is the next step, by the way. But before we drive any screws, let's make sure that all the adjustments in all the hinges are working properly. You want to leave them in the middle of their range so that you can move them in either direction when you get to the adjusting. Install the brackets in the cabinet, screwing them to the backs of the face frame. Then attach the hinge plates to the brackets. Install the cups with the hinge mechanisms in the doors. Also, attach the door pull at this time. Once you've attached all the hardware, you can attach the hinge mechanism to the plate. Newer mechanisms have a snap lock feature where you just sort of press the parts together like that. But there are cup hinges out there where you still need a screw or two to attach the mechanism to the plate. Once you've attached one mechanism, attach the other. Occasionally, more than occasionally, you will need a few blue words to make these parts go together like they should. And there you have one door swinging on its hinges. One more to go for this cabinet, but I'm going to do a preliminary adjustment on each door as I go. Each hinge has 3 screws that allow you to move the door 2 millimeters in all 3 directions. This screw, near the front of the mechanism, will move this corner of the door right and left. This one, near the end of the plate, moves it in and out. And this one, that you can barely see because I have to reach through the mechanism to get at it, moves the door up and down. Now, each door has more than one hinge, so depending on the direction you want to move the door, you may have to adjust both hinges. Also be aware that these adjustment screws may be in different places on different hinges, but they all have these adjustments. Now, I have to make the adjustments with the door open and then check the adjustments with the door closed. So this particular step includes a lot of backing and forthing and grumbling and complaining, and I'm going to spare you all of it. Instead, we're going to jump right to the point where I've got the doors installed. Now, on this particular cabinet, there is just a little woodworking left to do to adjust these doors so they close properly. You see, these doors meet in the center, and they have square edges. Because these doors follow a curved path as they open and close, those square edges will catch each other. So I'm going to put a bevel on both adjoining edges using a hand plane. This is where the snap-in, snap-out feature really comes in handy. You can easily detach each door to plane the bevel, and then snap it back in place and do a little touch-up work or readjustment if needed. And here are the doors, all planed, adjusted, and working well. And I don't think I've lost my religion more than 6 or 7 times per door. Now, obviously, you don't need all the tools and the methods that I showed you for every single installation. You don't need to plane adjoining doors if you only have a single door covering a single opening. And you don't need those brackets if you don't have lips and web frames. But I wanted you to have all that information so that you have all of those options. Thanks for your kind attention.